I still can't wrap my head around Itho. One woman had the audacity to plant herself in front of 3 massive school buses, clutching a clipboard like it was a scepter granting her DVY any authority. The air was thick with the wail of sirens, and through the bus windows, I could see the kids' wide-eyed faces, their nervous whispers barely audible over the chaos. It was a scene straight out of a thriller, but this wasn't fiction. This was our quiet little neighborhood of Willow Grove, and the clock was ticking. My name's Ethan. I live a few doors down from the corner where this whole mess exploded. Most mornings, you'd find me on my front steps at 6:30 a.m., nursing a mug of coffee while my retriever, Rusty, sprawls out beside the rose bushes. But that Tuesday in April 2024, my routine shattered the second my phone blared an evacuation alert. A gas leak at the old textile mill, just beyond our subby VY Shown, had sparked a county-wide order to clear out. Toxic fumes were a real threat, and every second mattered. But no Nino 1 cold VE predicted that the biggest roadblock to SA VY-ing our kids wouldn't be the leak itself, but a woman named Vi VYN, the iron-fisted president of our homeowners association. Vi VYN runs the Willow Grove HOA like a dictator, wielding bylaws as weapons. She's the type who'd fine you for a mailbox that's half an inch too tall, and somehow, she always makes it sound like she's SAVY-ing CI-VYlization. I sprinted toward the intersection, dodging neighbors shove VY-ing suitcases into their cars, their faces pale with panic. My stomach dropped when I saw the first bus, engine rumbling, going nowhere. Kids were pressed against the windows, their eyes darting in confusion. Principal Larson, a soft-spoken guy who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else, was practically begging Vi VY to let the buses through. She just tapped her pen on her clipboard, cool as ice, and declared that, per Section 19 of the Willow Grove Covenants, oversized vehicles needed 48 hours notice to use our roads. "Those tires will ruin our new pavement," she snapped, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "Do you know how much we paid for that resurfacing?" I nearly choked. Pavement? Pavement? Kids were trapped, and she was worried about tire marks? Larson was sweating through his shirt, stammering about the evacuation order, but Vi VY wasn't budging. 2 cops from the local precinct rolled up Officer Daniels, a no-nonsense guy with a buzz cut, and Officer Ruiz, who looked like he'd seen it all, but not this. Daniels tried to explain that the county's mandate trumped her rules, but Vi VY flipped to another page on her clipboard, her expression screaming that her HOA handbook outranked the law itself. Ruiz muttered something into his radio, probably warning his boss that a suburban standoff was derailing an emergency. The kids started chanting, their small voices trembling. "Let us go! Let us go!" It hit me like a punch to the chest. Even Tom and Reggie, the 2 guys fixing up my garage, wandered over, their tool belts jingling. Let me tell you about Tom and Reggie. Tom's a burly dude with a beard that could hide a toolbox, the kind of guy who calls a wrench the negotiator. Reggie's lean, always chewing gum, and swears every problem can be fixed with a roll of electrical tape and a smirk. They've been turning my garage into a home gym for weeks, though we kept getting sidetracked arguing over whether to mount a neon Live Strong sign on the wall. I said it was tacky. They said it was inspirational. Those debates were usually the highlight of my day, but right now, they dropped their coffee mugs and stared at the scene, as stunned as I was. Tom caught my eye, his usual grin gone. "Ethan, what the hell do we do?" Reggie, munching on a bagel he'd probably dug out of his truck, squinted at Vi VY's rigid stance. "Think she'll move if we ask nicely?" he mumbled. I almost laughed almost. If the cops couldn't sway her, our charm wasn't going to cut it. Vi VY pointed her pen at Daniels like a sword. "I don't care who ordered this evacuation," she declared, her voice ringing out. "My authority here is final. No heavy vehicles without my approval." She stepped forward, her body a human barricade, as if daring anyone to challenge her. Daniels tried again, his tone tight. "Ma'am, if those fumes spread, we're talking dozens of families at risk." Vi VY's reply made my jaw drop. If they're so worried about fumes, they shouldn't have bought homes near an industrial zone. That's not my problem. I couldn't believe it. She was holding kids hostage over her precious rules. oblivious to the danger creeping closer. A few neighbors were filming, their phones shaking. Principal Larson kept glancing at his watch, muttering that the gas levels were rising. One wrong breeze, and we'd be choking on toxic air. My mind raced. Then it hit me, old buddy Jace, a helicopter pilot I'd met during a disaster preparedness course years ago. He was the kind of guy who'd fly into a storm without blinking. Calling a chopper seemed insane, but so was letting a clipboard-wielding tyrant trap our kids in a potential poison cloud. I took a deep breath, ignoring the doubt gnawing at me. If I didn't act, we'd be stuck here until the fumes rolled in. Tom noticed my expression shift. "Ethan," he said, his bagel forgotten. "What's the plan?" Reggie leaned in, curious. "I'm making a call," I said, my voice low. They exchanged a look, knowing I wasn't dialing the pizza guy. I stepped away, dodging VY Ann's suspicious glare. She probably thought I was ratting her out to the HOA board. My fingers fumbled as I scrolled to Jace's number, labeled call if the world's ending. Dramatic, sure, but this felt close enough. When his gravelly voice answered, I didn't waste time. "Jace, we've got a gas leak at the mill. Evacuation stalled because the HOA president's blocking the school buses. Cops can't move her. Kids are stuck." He let out a grunt, like he'd heard crazier things. "Give me your address. I can get a chopper there." I rattled off the details, my heart pounding. "How soon?" he asked. I glanced at the kids, their faces pale against the glass. "Yesterday," I said. "Hold tight," Jace replied. "We're coming." Hanging up, I felt like I'd just lit a fuse. A helicopter? In Willow Grove? Vivian was mid-rant, threatening lawsuits if the cops touched her SUV, which she'd parked at an angle to block the buses. Larson pleaded, his voice cracking. She waved him off like he was a pesky fly. "Vivian," I said, forcing calm. "This is an emergency. These kids are in danger." She narrowed her eyes, her lips a thin line. "I'll allow passage," she said, "if the principal submits a 25-page vehicle permit. If he cares about the children, he'll do it." I nearly lost it. Forms? Now. A girl on the bus pressed her hands to the window, tears streaming down her face. My blood boiled. Tom stepped up, his voice gentle but firm. "Ma'am, this isn't about pavement. It's about kids' lives." Vivian's glare could have sparked a fire. "It's about standards," she hissed. "If we let these buses through, next it'll be garbage trucks tearing up our streets. Where's the line?" Reggie rolled his eyes, muttering, "This is nuts." Officer Ruiz tried to nudge her aside, but Vivian dodged him with the agility of a cat, fueled by pure stubbornness. Then, a low thrum cut through the noise. Head snapped up. A helicopter glinted in the dawn sky, closing in fast. My chest tightened. Had I really done this? Larson blinked at the spinning blades. Even Vivian faltered, her clipboard trembling. Jace's voice crackled through my phone, asking for a landing spot. The cul-de-sac was too tight, with power lines crisscrossing overhead, so I directed him to a vacant lot by the community center, a short sprint away. The chopper swooped low, kicking up dust, and landed with a thud that shook the ground. Jace strode out, all business in his jumpsuit, his crew trailing behind. The kids erupted in cheers, like they'd spotted a superhero. Vivian coughed, regaining her composure. "Who authorized a helicopter?" she demanded, brandishing her clipboard. Jace didn't flinch. "Emergency call, ma'am. Lives are at risk." She bristled. "We have flight restrictions." Jace raised an eyebrow. "County law overrides that when kids are in danger." The air crackled with tension. Parents poured out of their homes, pointing. The cops huddled, whispering. I faced Vivian again. "Move your SUV, Vivian. Let the buses go." She scoffed. "Danger? You're being dramatic. The leak's probably minor." Jay shot me a look, then stepped in. "My crew's in touch with the hazmat team. The leak's bad, evacuation's critical." Vivian opened her mouth, but no words came. Ruiz chimed in. "We'll tow your vehicle if we have to." Her knuckles whitened around her clipboard. Tom leaned over to Reggie. "He actually called a chopper," he whispered. "This is wild." Reggie nodded, snapping photos. Jace joined me by the buses. The drivers were afraid, one woman asking if we had a plan. Jace nodded. "If she doesn't move in 2 minutes, we'll We'll guide the buses around her SUV. It'll be tight, might scrape some cars, but it's better than toxic air. Vivian overheard and gasped, as if scratched paint was worse than trapped kids. Ruiz repeated the towing threat, and I saw her flinch. She wasn't used to losing. Larson made one last plea. Please, the air's turning hazardous. We're out of time. Vivian glared but wavered. Parents crowded closer, some shouting. Tom swore he smelled chemicals in the breeze. Reggie agreed, saying it was like burnt rubber. Jace's crew set out cones to clear a path. Vivian's voice rose. You'll destroy the pavement with those turns. Jace didn't blink. Better scuffed roads than kids in the ER. Her face paled. Then, in a move that felt like a MOVYE climax, she stormed to her SUV, yanked the door open, and started the engine. The crowd parted as she reversed, her glare venomous. Larson waved the buses forward. The kids' cheers filled the air, and Tom let out a whoop, Reggie fist-pumping like we'd won the Super Bowl. As the buses rolled toward the safe zone, Vivian parked and stepped out, arms crossed, her face a storm cloud. Officer Daniels thanked Jace and me, and I felt a rush of relief tinged with disbelief. I hadn't planned to turn Willow Grove into a war zone, but what choice did I have? Vivian wasn't done, though. She marched over, clipboard clutched tight. Ethan, she spat, you've ruined this community. Now anyone can ignore our rules and call in a helicopter. Absurd. I met her gaze. This wasn't about rules, Vivian. It was about a gas leak that could have killed kids. She scoffed, eyeing the tire marks on her precious pavement. There'll be fines. This can't stand. Jay stepped up, his voice low. If you ever endanger people like this again, I'll make sure the county knows. Vivian paled, her confidence cracking. Larson, Ty Askew, thanked me, his voice thick. I thought those kids were done for. I shrugged. Just made a call. Thank Jace. Tom and Reggie grinned, proud to have witnessed the drama without resorting to their usual hammer and tape solutions. Vivian slunk back to her SUV, peeled out, and vanished in her driveway. The street fell quiet, the adrenaline fading. Neighbors asked if the leak was contained. Jay said to wait for the county's all clear. Parents hugged, some crying. Snippets of chatter floated around. She's always been a control freak, but this? Try explaining this to your boss. A few folks shook my hand, which was weird, usually just the guy Vivian cites for an overgrown lawn. Back home, Tom and Reggie joked about our neon sign debate being tame compared to this. You sure about that sign? Tom teased. Might have calmed Vivian down. I laughed, the tension easing. Larson stopped by later, asking how I'd pulled off the chopper. I mentioned Jace from my training days, and he scribbled down emergency contacts, half joking I might need them again. Sinking onto my couch, I replayed Vivian's shock when the helicopter landed. She'd acted like her kingdom was under siege. Maybe that's what she needed, a wake-up call that her rules don't trump lives. My phone pinged with an HOA email, subject, urgent violation notice. Vivian was accusing me of unauthorized aircraft disruption, claiming the chopper's noise broke community ordinances. I laughed, showing Tom and Reggie. You can't make this up, Reggie gasped. I saved the email for later. The cops, cameras, and Larson's testimony would bury her if she pushed this. Over lunch, Tom asked if I'd call Chopper again. If kids are at stake? In a heartbeat, I said. Reggie raised his sandwich. To Captain Chaos. By afternoon, the county cleared the area, though we were told to report odd smells. Neighbors thanked me, sharing stories of Vivian's petty tyranny. Her grip on Willow Grove was slipping. The next morning, life resumed, mowers humming, dogs barking. But something had shifted. At the coffee shop, folks talked about curbing the HOA's power. Vivian stayed out of sight, probably licking her wounds or drafting more complaints. Jace texted, glad it worked. Don't call me back too soon. I grinned, replying, no promises. Sipping coffee on my steps, I realized how fast normal can vanish. 1 minute, you're debating a tacky gym sign. The next, you're fighting to save kids from a tyrant and a toxic cloud. Life's a wild ride, And sometimes you gotta call in the big guns or a helicopter to protect what matters. So what do you think? Was Vi Wine just a control freak protecting her turf? Or did she cross a line into dangerous obsession? Should Ethan have gone straight to the chopper? Or was there another way to break her grip? And what about the HOA? Do these groups have too much power, or are they essential for order? Drop your thoughts below. Hit that like button if you felt the tension, and subscribe for more stories that'll keep you on edge.